parentheses it gets added, but talent is the big multiplier. Okay? Talent times investment equals strength. Okay, and part of that investment is time. You've got to invest time. Now, it's really interesting. You probably have seen this. It was Malcolm Gladwell first kind of pulled it into prominence in his book Outliers. And you may have heard about the 10,000 hour rule. Yeah, 10,000 hour rule. And what Gladwell said in his book, looking at some of the research, is that what sets people who are world class apart from those who are not is they spend 10,000 hours practicing. Well, that's 3 hours a day for 10 years. You're going to get pretty good at anything if you spend 3 hours a day for the next 10 years practicing. And he said that's the thing that sets them apart. The original researchers went back and said, no, not really. That's an important part of it, but that's only about 36% of world-class ability. The other is talent. So you've got to make the investment in talent. So I'll just take my uncle for an example. My uncle was the chair of the piano department at Marshall University in Huntington, West Virginia. Fabulous pianist. He was world class at what he did. He was just a wonderful pianist. And he spent a lot of time practicing to get there. If I spent 3 hours a day for the next 10 years practicing the piano, I would get good. I'd never be that good. I'd also be just, stark raving mad because, that's anyway. But if I have that kind of thing, so it matters what you spend your 10,000 hours doing, right? So spend that time focusing on investing in talent, because you will get okay. If you invest in areas where you don't have a lot of talent, as I said earlier this morning, you will get better. You just will. But you won't be world class. It will not produce excellence. It'll produce just okay. And you all know the Just Okay commercials. Just okay is not okay, right? Yeah, this is where you want to produce excellence. And that's where strength comes into play. The ability to consistently provide near-perfect performance in a specific task. So when you invest in talents, you get strength. And what you did in the two things that you did this morning were very simple, yet effective ways to invest in talent. So let's go back to the first one we did with the speed dating. Did you find by the time you got into your second, third, and fourth, and maybe fifth conversations of those that you made, it got a little bit easier? You came up with other ideas about where you've seen that talent active in your life. I had a conversation. Let's see, who's my restorative buddy? Yeah, there we go. We talked about restorative. Is it okay if we talk? Okay, good. I don't, Anyway, I said, I'm not too sure about that one. But we looked and it says, yeah, it's about, I want to bring healing to people. Restorative. How many of you have restorative? Others of you have restorative? Yeah, I think a restorative. My big image for restorative comes from that fabulous movie Wreck-It Ralph. See Wreck-It Ralph? Yeah, the very first Wreck-It Ralph. He's in the video arcade game and he wrecks everything and he's tired of wrecking it. The hero of that game is Fix-It Felix. Yeah, that's what restorative does. If you got a problem, I'll solve it, and you love to dig in and solve. And I loved how you put that. I love to bring healing to people. Wow, isn't that brilliant? I love that. I have restorative really low. Right, and so I'm always anxious to hear about those things, and so I heard about that, and I got the sense that you're a little bit more comfortable with kind of understanding some things about restorative from having the conversations and people asking it. You have a conversation about your themes and how they show up. It helps you be more intentional, to kind of stand back. It gives you self-awareness. Okay, because when you think about the three cycles of thinking about strength, there's self-awareness, there's self-expression, and then there's self-regulation. And that self-awareness is a huge part of developing those strengths. So you make an investment in your self-awareness around your strengths. And then also too, your self-expression. How do I express this? And then there's that part of self-regulation, which we'll talk about too in a little bit that comes up. So talent times investment equals strength. And there's intentionality around it. And this conversation that you just had with a partner, thinking about ways that you can use one of your top 5 to attack the greatest challenge that you're facing right now, that's an investment in talent. And that's how you then start to bring those into the forefront and live out of your strengths.
Are you saying the talent element is bigger contributor to make the strength?
Yes. Talent is a big, yes is the short answer, but let me expand on that a little bit. Okay, talent is the big thing to build strength. Talent is a big multiplier, but you got to have the rest of this inside. Talent alone does not give you strength. You've got to have it in order to build strength, but you have to have the investment part too. You know, that's where the pieces of investment are. You add them up, and then you multiply everything by talent. So you got to have both parts of the equation, but talent is that big multiplier.
So what about intensity of talent? Is that natural? Is that part of the investment?
Intensity of talent. Say a little bit more about that, what you're thinking.
So are you born with, say, being more connected than other people who have that same talent in the top 5?
So here's the answer to that. Because we used to measure that, and we used to, our coaches, and this is back, you know, almost 20 years ago, used to have the intensity of the themes and numbers beside them. And we did that for about 10 minutes. Because we found this is not helpful, because then people start comparing. I am more achiever than you do. Well, you know, no. So we need to figure out what you do. And so there is intensity. Now the other thing too is why we look at those top 10 as that package that go together is yes, there's an order. There's also a wrong way to look at the order, just real quickly. And this is, I had one, this was probably 15 years ago, I was doing a presentation. And one of the guys came up afterwards, one of the people came up afterwards, and he said, yeah, I've been coaching around this for years, and I have the formula figured out. And I said, oh, you do? Well, why don't you tell me more? Because I'm thinking, give the details so I can get this to legal. But anyway, he says, I've got this figured out. He says, yeah, your first theme is twice as strong as your second. Your second theme is twice as strong as your third. Your third theme is twice as strong as your fourth. And by the time you get to your fifth, that's irrelevant. I said, oh, how did you figure this out? He said, oh, I just did. There was all kinds of that going on at the time. But here's the thing. Yes, they are in order. However, if there is a tie, they're in alphabetical order. So I've got futuristic, maximizer, strategic, 2, 3, and 4. They might be tied, they might not. So there is, but what we found is it's not particularly helpful. Because what you have when we look at this, and again, this is why StrengthsFinder is developmental, not a selection instrument, because it is not comparative. It doesn't compare you with anybody else. Our selection instruments, and there's a science around selection, is comparative talents. Different themes of talent and different ways of looking at talent, but it's not the Clifton Strengths talents. Good. Yeah, that's why when you ask that, it's like, okay, this is a big answer. Yes? One more, and then we're going to go to lunch. Yes?
Talent times investment.
Yeah.
How far down the list did you take your investment?
How far down? That's a really good question. Short answer is I would start with your top 5, because that is your top 5. Your signature themes are what we say, this is your natural capacity for excellence. That said, I would also maybe go into your dominant, which we'll talk about this afternoon. You know, and we'll talk about dominant tends to be around 10, 11, 12, somewhere in that area. So I wouldn't go far, but I would really start with your top 5, because that's really where you're going to get the best, your best mileage. Good. All right. Hey, great morning, everyone. We're going to break for lunch. Should I pray for us as we go out to lunch?
Yeah.
All right. Gracious God.